Have you ever felt stuck in a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions? Like your mind had a life of its own, dragging you along for the ride? More than 2,500 years ago, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, faced a similar struggle, leading him to profound insights about the mind. Contrary to quick fixes or suppressive tactics, Buddha's approach centers on transforming our relationship with inner experiences. By learning to watch thoughts come and go, we grow less reactive and more at peace. This script unpacks key Buddhist principles and practical methods to help you cultivate a steady, clear mind, even amid modern chaos. Why our thoughts and emotions can feel overwhelming. In today's hyper-connected world, our minds process an onslaught of stimuli, social media notifications, endless tasks, and constant stressors. From Buddha's viewpoint, much of our mental strain boils down to attachment and aversion. We grasp after what we desire and repel what we fear. This intensifies both our cravings and anxieties. Think about replaying a hurtful comment over and over, or obsessing over future what-ifs. Buddha noted that suffering expands when we identify too closely with every fleeting mental event. Instead of seeing thoughts as passing occurrences, we treat them as absolute truths. The result is tension, worry, and sometimes despair. Buddha recognized that simply forcing thoughts to stop doesn't work. You need a new approach, one where you observe, rather than battle, your mental states. By noticing how ephemeral each thought or feeling is, you free yourself from being controlled by them. This shift forms the foundation of Buddhist mental training, acknowledging thoughts as impermanent happenings, not unchangeable facts. Buddha's radical shift. Observing the mind. One of Buddha's core teachings is mindful observation. Before enlightenment, Siddhartha Gautama tried austere methods but found lasting change through calmly watching his mind. He realized that telling yourself, "stop thinking," rarely succeeds. Real progress comes from seeing thoughts and emotions as momentary, non-defining phenomena. In modern terms, this is akin to a metacognitive skill, awareness of your mental processes. If anger arises, you note, "Anger is here," then track how it manifests physically, tightness in the shoulders, a surge of heat in the chest, without fueling it. Monks systematically practice this in meditation. They watch each thought appear and fade. Over time, they develop equanimity, a balanced mind that doesn't latch onto pleasant feelings or recoil from unpleasant ones. In daily life, even brief recognition of your mind's patterns disrupts autopilot reactions. When frustration or temptation appears, you pause and witness it. This vantage point dissolves impulsive habits and fosters a sense of freedom. Instead of drowning in the storylines your mind spins, you stand on the bank, seeing thoughts flow by like leaves on a river. The illusion of control and how to transcend it. People often interpret controlling your thoughts as forcing them to stop. Buddha taught the opposite. Controlling the mind means relating differently to thoughts, not repressing them. Rigidly trying to silence thoughts can breed inner conflict. Instead, Buddha showed how seeing thoughts as fleeting, not reflective of an unchanging self, reduces their emotional charge. Imagine a leaf drifting on water. If you jump in, attempting to snatch or push it away, you waste energy and get soaked. Standing on the bank, observing, requires less effort. Similarly, emotional states are less overwhelming when you adopt a calm, observing stance. This doesn't deny painful memories or worries. It acknowledges them as transient mental events. Compassionate acceptance is key. You treat these internal visitors kindly, without letting them hijack your sense of self. You realize, "I'm experiencing anger," instead of declaring, "I am angry." That subtle shift dilutes negative energy. Over time, you build a new mental reflex, pausing before reacting, freeing you to choose wiser responses. Practical methods, from meditation to daily rituals. Buddha's teachings aren't meant to stay in the realm of theory. They're designed for daily integration. One core practice is sitting meditation, samatha vipassana, where you devote 10 to 20 minutes to a quiet posture. focusing on your breath or a specific object. Each time thoughts wander, you gently return to your focal point, building concentration, samatha, and insight, vipassana. Walking meditation follows a similar principle, only now you observe each step's sensation, acknowledging mental distractions as they arise, then returning to your stride. Beyond structured meditation, mindful breaks woven into your day can reset a frazzled mind. Simply pause, inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and notice what you're feeling. Another helpful tool is compassion meditation, metta, silently wishing peace and happiness for yourself and others, thereby softening harsh self-talk. Lastly, a habit of journaling helps you track emotional flare-ups and their triggers, shedding light on recurring patterns. Each approach, from dedicated meditation sessions to small mindful interludes, accumulates into a comprehensive mental training regimen that fosters clarity and calm under pressure. Emotional intelligence, transforming fear, anger, and desire. Buddha's approach parallels modern emotional intelligence, which emphasizes awareness, regulation, and empathy. Anger often arises from perceived threats, fear from anticipating harm, desire from yearning for security or pleasure. These emotions serve adaptive roles, yet they become problematic when we over-identify with them. Rather than labeling your fear or anger as bad, you note it as a visitor passing through. Is your fear rooted in a past trauma? Is your anger a mask for feeling inadequate? Buddha taught that once you see the root of an emotion, its power to commandeer your actions diminishes. Cultivating such clarity expands empathy too. When you understand how your mind can be overtaken by worry or rage, you empathize better with others facing similar storms. This synergy underlies Buddhist compassion. The more you comprehend your own mental states, the more you appreciate others' struggles. Emotional intelligence thus becomes a two-way street, benefiting your internal stability and fueling altruistic connections. The power of non-attachment, upadana. In Buddhism, upadana refers to grasping or clinging, a primary cause of mental turmoil. Non-attachment means you engage fully with life, knowing everything, goals, relationships, even your emotional highs, is impermanent. This perspective lowers anxiety about outcomes. For instance, working toward a promotion is healthy ambition, but if you tie your self-worth to achieving it, any failure or delay inflames your mind. Non-attachment encourages diligence without the stress of hinged identity. You do your best without letting the result define your sense of self. When it comes to internal states, non-attachment fosters a more peaceful mind. Thoughts and feelings arise, but you don't chain your identity to them. By reminding yourself thoughts are events, not deep truths, you fluidly navigate emotional waves. This approach fosters a confident, flexible psyche. Energy is channeled into present-moment action instead of wasted on frantic control. Dissolving the ego, where real freedom begins. Buddha's teaching of anatta, no self, radically shifted how practitioners see themselves. We often cling to an I that we feel needs defending. Emotions intensify when they threaten our self-image. If your mind ruminates on a slight or criticism, it's often because you believe it undermines your stable self. Yet deeper meditation reveals the self as a fluid construct. Emotions and thoughts shift constantly. There isn't a permanent me beneath them. This can be liberating. If anger or sorrow doesn't define you, there's space to let it dissolve. You don't ignore these experiences. You simply stop letting them hijack your identity. Monks systematically explore no-self in quiet retreat, observing how mental states come and go without a central operator. You can approach it more gradually by noticing how your opinions, preferences, even personality traits evolve over time. Such awareness diffuses ego-based anxieties. You still feel hurt or fear, but it's no longer the defining narrative of who you are. Freed from the burden of protecting a rigid self, you handle thoughts and emotions with greater ease and compassion. How Buddha's teachings fit into everyday modern life. At first, it might seem that monastic discipline and ancient teachings can't mesh with hectic modern living. But the Noble Eightfold Path and Buddha's insights are shockingly adaptable. Consider weaving mindful practices into your daily schedule. A short sunrise meditation can anchor your focus. A mindful lunch break can calm midday stress. An evening journaling session can help you reflect on emotional triggers. You can also apply mindful listening in conversation. Instead of formulating your reply while the other person speaks, hold your attention on their words. If a stressful email arrives, take a few conscious breaths before responding. This short pause could prevent an impulsive, heated reply. Over time, these small interventions reshape your mental habits, reducing reactivity and increasing patience. Society might push you to multitask frenetically, but Buddha's approach encourages deliberate pacing. By focusing on one thing at a time, you align with right effort, doing what's needed without scattering your energy. The result is not a slow, unproductive life, but a more efficient, harmonious one, where mind and action sync up rather than clash. A roadmap for ongoing growth. If you're ready for deeper transformation, begin by identifying a few core objectives, such as reducing anxiety or managing anger constructively. Carve out a daily routine that includes simple meditation, 10 minutes focusing on breath or scanning body sensations. Whenever emotional triggers flare up, pause and label the feeling, sadness, tension, worry, to create space before reacting. Reflect on each day in a journal, noting where mindful awareness succeeded and where autopilot took over. Embrace support systems. Read Buddhist texts like the Dhammapada or seek online talks by modern Buddhist teachers, absorbing guidance that refines your practice. Over time, subtle shifts become pronounced. Fewer thought spirals, quicker emotional recovery, and a greater sense of inner stability. You'll see that controlling thoughts and emotions isn't about shutting them down, but guiding them through mindful comprehension, a skill honed day by day, aligning your mind with the enduring wisdom of Buddha. Buddha's secret to mastering thoughts and emotions doesn't hinge on suppressing them. It hinges on recognizing their impermanence and meeting them with compassionate awareness. By practicing mindfulness, releasing attachment, and embracing the fluidity of self, you cultivate a mind that stays centered amid life's tempests. Which Buddhist insight resonates most with you? Feel free to share in the comments. And if this deep dive has inspired you, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Monk Mindset, for more strategies on living with clarity, balance, and enduring inner peace. Ever find yourself tangled in worries or obsessions, replaying events in your head until you're exhausted? Our modern world, filled with non-stop demands and shiny new distractions, makes it all too easy to cling, whether to relationships, outcomes, possessions, or images of who we think we should be. Yet centuries ago, spiritual teachers like Gautama Buddha emphasized that freedom comes not from getting more, but from letting go. This is the essence of detachment, a concept often misunderstood. It's not about indifference or coldness. It's about easing the mental chains that keep us trapped in anxiety, resentment, or longing. In this script, we'll explore how genuine detachment leads to mental clarity, emotional balance, and a deeper sense of authenticity, why we cling and how it creates suffering. At first glance, holding tightly to what we love or want seems natural. You might cling to a cherished relationship, a goal you've nurtured, or an idealized version of yourself. Yet trouble arises the moment life inevitably changes. A partner grows distant, a dream stalls, or a job ends. And we're left in turmoil. According to Buddhist thought, this pain springs from attachment, our tendency to see external conditions as the pillars of our happiness or identity. Think about the last time you felt real heartbreak or devastation. Often, the intensity wasn't just about losing something, it was about the meaning you assigned it. If a particular job became central to your self-worth, losing it felt catastrophic. If a relationship symbolized your hopes, any threat to it felt like a threat to your core. Clinging magnifies suffering because it refuses to honor impermanence. Everything in life evolves, decays, or transforms over time. When we forget that fact, reality inevitably rips away our illusions, triggering despair or anger. Ironically, the very act of clinging often leads to more turmoil, like gripping a bar of soap too tightly, causing it to slip away. Whether it's longing for the past or fretting about the future, excessive attachment keeps our minds locked in worry, tension, or regret. Buddha noticed this repetitive cycle in human behavior and suggested a path of non-attachment to break the chain of suffering. Buddha's view on non-attachment: anicca and anatta. Central to Buddha's teachings are two interconnected principles: anicca, impermanence, and anatta, no self. Anicca states that everything, material objects, emotions, relationships, even entire civilizations, shifts over time. What's shiny and new today becomes old and worn tomorrow. Anatta underscores that our idea of a permanent, unchanging self is misleading. We're a fluid mix of experiences, thoughts, and bodily changes, not a static entity. When you see the world through these lenses, clinging appears less tenable. For instance, if you view your career success as your core identity, you ignore the fluid nature of work roles and personal evolution. By contrast, acknowledging impermanence and the changing self can reduce the desperation to hold on. You still experience love, ambition, and excitement, but you do so with the understanding that these states evolve. Non-attachment doesn't mean you can't enjoy life. Rather, it means engaging wholeheartedly without the frantic need to lock anything in place. A job can be satisfying, but if it ends, you adapt. A relationship can be deeply valued, but if it shifts, you recenter and move forward. This perspective fosters agility. You're present and committed, yet you won't collapse when change inevitably arrives. Buddha himself lived this principle, calmly accepting transitions while remaining compassionate toward himself and others. Common misconceptions about detachment. Many confuse detachment with indifference or emotional numbness. They fear becoming a stone-cold person who doesn't care about loved ones or ambitions. However, Buddhist detachment, sometimes termed non-attachment, is not about shutting down your capacity for feeling. Instead, it's a practice of respecting the flow of life rather than desperately clinging to fixed states or outcomes. Picture a musician deeply engrossed in playing a piece. They're fully committed to each note, yet they're not devastated if the performance must end. They don't try to hold that moment forever. They appreciate it as it is. Non-attachment works similarly. You invest your passion in what you do, but you don't tie your identity or long-term well-being to the fate of that endeavor. Another misconception is that detachment hinders responsibility. On the contrary, healthy detachment can enhance accountability by freeing you to act from clarity instead of fear or compulsion. For example, if you're not entangled in ego battles at work, you can focus on solutions that benefit the team, not your self-image. Detachment liberates resources for empathy, strategic thinking, and genuine care. The emotional freedom detachment offers. When you let go of the need for permanence, your mind gradually relaxes. Imagine how often you've wasted energy ruminating over what you might lose, or lamenting what you once had. Detachment doesn't erase sadness or frustration entirely, but it dulls their intensity by reminding you that change is the norm, not a betrayal of some cosmic script. This emotional freedom creates space for more authentic living. Suppose you're traveling with friends. Instead of obsessing over capturing the perfect photo to preserve the moment forever, you engage wholeheartedly, trusting the memory will evolve naturally. Or think about a creative project. Non-attachment lets you pour creativity into it without the crippling anxiety of, will people love this forever? You're free to enjoy the process and share it, unconcerned with universal approval or indefinite success. Moreover, detachment aids in conflict resolution. When your identity isn't hooked onto winning or proving you're right, you can approach disagreements with genuine curiosity and compromise. This shift from insecure reactivity to calm self-assuredness fosters relationships based on respect and mutual growth rather than power struggles. Buddha saw this transformation as key. emotional bondage lessens, compassion grows. Practical steps to cultivate detachment. While Buddha's teachings on non-attachment run deep, there are straightforward ways to apply them in your hectic life. One starting point is mindful meditation, dedicating a few minutes daily to observing your breath or bodily sensations. Each time you catch your mind drifting into longing or aversion, gently bring it back, reinforcing the notion that thoughts and feelings come and go. Another useful method is labeling emotions. When anxiety or anger arises, simply note anxiety or anger, rather than letting it consume you. Likewise, picking one minor attachment, like a surplus possession or a stubborn routine, and consciously letting it go, can illustrate how easily you can adapt once you decide to release. Reflecting on impermanence helps too. Recall how past circumstances you once thought permanent have shifted, reminding yourself that all conditions evolve. Finally, approach both yourself and others with compassion, understanding that everyone struggles with clinging. By merging these practices, meditation, emotional awareness, small acts of letting go, reminders of change and kindness, you gradually loosen the grip of attachment. The benefits don't appear overnight, but each moment of intentional detachment nurtures mental clarity and resilience, allowing you to move through life's ups and downs with greater poise. Detachment and boundaries. Being true to yourself. Detachment doesn't mean letting others walk over you. It actually supports clear boundaries, because you're not entangled in the fear of losing approval or belonging. When you're detached, you can say no or voice concerns without guilt or anger, overshadowing your communication. Sometimes people conflate caring with clinging, thinking if they're not heavily invested in outcomes, they're irresponsible or unloving. Yet real love or responsibility flourishes when it's free from incessant worry. For example, if you care deeply for a friend grappling with addiction, detachment helps you offer support without trying to micromanage their every choice. It respects their journey while shielding your emotional well-being. In relationships, non-attachment also means respecting individuality. If a partner wants to explore new interests, you don't stifle them out of fear. This approach fosters mutual growth rather than resentment. By valuing each person's evolving path, you maintain a healthier dynamic. Boundaries become natural expressions of self-respect, not defensive walls. Thus, detachment nurtures relationships where honesty and personal evolution take precedence over clinging to static roles or illusions. Making detachment a way of life. Deepening detachment involves weaving mindful awareness into every corner of daily life, not just in occasional meditation sessions. You might schedule small awareness breaks throughout the day, pausing to observe if you're gripping an expectation or resisting a situation. Ask yourself, am I clinging here? What would letting go look like? Over time, these inquiries become second nature, reminding you to loosen your mental clutch. Simultaneously, cultivate trust in the unfolding of life. This doesn't imply passivity. You still act on responsibilities, but you no longer attach your self-worth to rigid outcomes or timelines. If you're building a business or raising children, you plan diligently, yet remain open to the reality that plans may shift. This mindset fosters resilience, because when a strategy fails or a child chooses a different path, you adapt without losing your balance. Engaging in community or Sangha support also enriches this journey. People who share Buddhist-inspired values can offer mutual encouragement, compare experiences, and keep each other accountable for mindful living. Detachment grows in an environment that respects introspection, acceptance, and compassion. Ultimately, you discover that letting go isn't about losing. It's about discovering your innate capacity to greet life with openness, resourcefulness, and an unfettered heart. Learning the power of detachment is an ongoing adventure, one that transforms how you work, love, and navigate life's flux. By embracing Buddha's core insights on impermanence and mindful release, you'll find new depth in relationships, more clarity in decisions, and less anxiety when outcomes shift. Which of these ideas resonates most with you right now? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if this exploration has sparked insights, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Monk Mindset, for further guidance on living with ease, integrity, and emotional freedom. May your journey reveal the calm at your core. Have you ever felt drained after too much chit-chat or realized you said things you later regretted? In a world that prizes constant communication, whether through social media, endless meetings, or casual gossip, silence can seem unnatural or even suspicious. Yet centuries of monastic traditions and figures like Gautama Buddha reveal a hidden truth. Talking less can actually make you stronger, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. This script delves into how purposeful silence fosters clarity, reduces stress, and deepens our connections with others and ourselves. If you're ready to discover why less talking often means more power, read on. The pressure to fill the space. From small talk at parties to brainstorming sessions at work, we often feel compelled to fill gaps in conversation. Silence, in many cultures, is seen as awkward, leaving participants uneasy. Marketing and media also push the idea that being vocal, visible, and constantly reachable equals success. Social media scrolls encourage hot takes on everything, reinforcing the notion that we should always have something to say. But this relentless flow of chatter can dull our senses. We're so busy broadcasting our thoughts or listening to others' streams of consciousness that we rarely pause for self-reflection. Buddha recognized this frenetic state as a prime source of suffering, pointing out that incessant dialogue often stems from the mind's restlessness, our monkey mind jumping from topic to topic, craving validation or fearing judgment. By never letting silence speak, we block the calm clarity that emerges when the mind rests. Recognizing how modern life encourages constant noise sets the stage for seeing why cutting back on verbal output can restore balance. Instead of wearing out your mental circuits in perpetual chatter, you can conserve energy, maintain deeper focus, and open yourself to the potency of listening, all hallmarks of a more stable and introspective life. Buddhist traditions. On silence. Historically, Buddhist monks and nuns practiced periods of noble silence, sometimes lasting days or weeks, to deepen meditation and foster inner awareness. During these retreats, participants refrain from casual conversation, focusing on breath and body sensations. Such quietude quickly reveals how much mental noise lingers beneath the surface: anxiety, daydreams, regrets. By deliberately removing social chatter, monks discover how their own thoughts and emotions clamor for attention. This monkish silence isn't about punishing oneself, it's a method for clarity. Think about your average day. How much of your speaking is strictly necessary, and how much is habit or nervous filling of space? When you talk less, you learn to watch your mind's impulses, noticing what truly needs to be communicated and what's just reflex. This practice aligns with right speech, one aspect of the Eightfold Path, speech that's purposeful, truthful, and beneficial. By limiting idle or harmful talk, you build discipline over your words, harnessing them more wisely. Moreover, Buddha's teaching of anatta, no self, suggests that many statements we make, boasting, complaining, or gushing about our opinions, reinforce an illusion of a fixed ego. Silence helps dismantle that reflex, revealing we can exist and connect without constantly asserting ourselves. It transforms conversation from a battlefield of egos to a conscious sharing of ideas, leading to more peaceful relationships and personal serenity. Clarity through quiet, calming the monkey mind. When you reduce chatter, something remarkable happens. You start to notice your internal monologue more acutely. This may initially feel unsettling. Without the distraction of talking, you face your own swirling thoughts and latent anxieties. But facing them is the first step to taming them. In Buddhist thought, mindfulness is key to calming mental turbulence. Each moment of silence offers a mini window to observe what's happening inside you: tension in your shoulders, a reoccurring worry, or excitement for a future event. Free from constant verbal output, your mind can shift attention inward, recognizing patterns that might otherwise remain hidden. As your environment quiets, your capacity for self-awareness grows. Instead of broadcasting every fleeting idea or feeling, you listen internally, sorting trivial from significant. This mental decluttering fosters a sense of control, knowing where your energies lie and how to direct them. Over time, you become more grounded, less reactive. You might even spot solutions or creative sparks that chattering might have drowned out. Silence, in other words, isn't emptiness. It's a fertile space where your mind can breathe and reorganize, letting genuine insight emerge. Building empathy through listening. Talking less doesn't merely help you, it profoundly impacts how you relate to others. In our rapid-fire culture, we often talk at each other, rushing to share opinions or stories. Rarely do we pause to let the other person's words sink in. This dynamic leaves many feeling unheard, sparking misunderstandings and distance. When you choose to speak less, you open space for genuine listening. You focus on the speaker's tone, expressions, and emotional subtext, far more than if you were preoccupied with crafting your next point. This depth of listening fosters empathy, bridging divides that quick, surface-level conversations can't. For instance, a colleague who usually rattles off work updates might, under your receptive silence, reveal hidden anxieties or needs. A friend might share personal burdens they rarely mention because you finally gave them unhurried room to articulate them. Buddha viewed right speech as not only about speaking truthfully, but also about hearing truthfully. If you're busy talking, you can't effectively absorb another person's perspective or emotion. By willingly stepping back and letting silence fill dialogues, you gather richer insights into others' experiences. The result is stronger emotional bonds, reduced conflict, and a more compassionate approach to everyday interactions. In a sense, minimal talking amplifies your ability to connect on deeper levels. Ironically, by receding from center stage, you become more attuned and helpful. The spiritual power of silence. Beyond practical perks like better listening, Buddha highlighted a deeper, almost sacred function of silence. It becomes a gateway to self-discovery and spiritual maturity. Freed from the noise of habitual speech, the mind confronts ultimate questions. Who am I beneath labels and banter? What do I truly seek? Monastics often rely on extended silence to strip away superficial identities, letting them sense the fluid nature of self, anatta, in real time. In a secular sense, adopting short intervals of silence can produce similar reflections. When you resist the urge to fill space, you see how your identity often hinges on stating opinions, telling anecdotes, or affirming your persona. Silence disrupts that pattern, compelling you to realize you can be without performing or proving. This realization carries a liberating effect, removing the compulsion to define yourself constantly. Moreover, quiet fosters a capacity for humility. By not always proclaiming your knowledge or experiences, you open yourself to new learning. You notice subtle details, read body language better, and stay curious instead of certain. Buddha valued this humility as a bulwark against arrogance, a trait that can blind us to growth opportunities. Silence, then, can be both a journey and a shield. A journey into the essence of your being and a shield against the pitfalls of ego-driven speech. Practical ways to embrace silence. In the hustle of modern life, total retreats into silence might seem impractical. Yet you can weave smaller practices that echo monastic discipline. One approach is the micro-retreat. Set aside a brief time daily, maybe early morning or late evening, where you're phone-free, avoiding conversation unless absolutely necessary. Treat it as an appointment with yourself, letting quiet rule. Even 10 or 15 minutes can reset mental clutter and anchor you in calm. Another tactic is single tasking. While not total silence, it mirrors the monastic focus by dedicating yourself fully to one activity, such as reading or cooking, without background chatter or music. This fosters presence. You listen to the moment rather than dividing your senses. Over time, the discipline to remain silent with tasks deepens mental clarity. If you're feeling adventurous, consider a silent half-day or weekend retreat at home, giving loved ones a heads up. Engage in quiet chores, journaling, or meditative walks. Notice initial restlessness, then observe how your mind adjusts. The purpose isn't to become a hermit, but to glimpse how minimal talking can free you from constant mental output, paving the way for restful introspection. Dealing with discomfort and social expectations. Choosing silence can clash with social norms. Colleagues or friends might ask, "Is everything okay?" if you speak less. Family gatherings might deem extended quiet awkward. Buddha faced similar skepticism when stepping away from worldly chatter. Yet his refusal to overindulge in talk was rooted in compassion, not disregard. He wanted his words to be meaningful, not empty. When discomfort arises, gently explain your intention to practice mindful speech or take a quiet pause. Most reasonable people respect thoughtful intentions once they grasp them. If someone accuses you of being aloof, clarify that you're focusing on listening or practicing calm presence, not ignoring them. Over time, they may come to appreciate the depth your silence brings to conversations. The real challenge may be internal, an itch to fill silence or worry about how others perceive you. Buddhist teachings recommend observing this itch with curiosity. Label it as fear of awkwardness or desire for validation, then breathe. Let the moment pass. This approach builds mental resilience. Each time you resist the compulsion to speak without purpose, you reinforce your capacity to hold space calmly, a skill that can prove invaluable in any setting, from negotiations to heartfelt dialogues. Reaping the benefits: peace, focus, and deeper relationships. Over time, reducing speech in favor of intentional silence yields multiple rewards. First, you conserve mental energy. Non-stop talking tires the mind, often leading to hasty words or regrets. By filtering out needless chatter, you stay fresher and think more clearly. Second, you cultivate inner peace. You're not constantly reacting verbally, so your mind rests more readily. This calmer interior environment translates into lower stress and sharper focus when tasks demand your full attention. In relationships, the payoff is significant. Speaking less, listening more, and giving others the floor fosters empathy and trust. People sense that you genuinely value what they have to say, which strengthens bonds. Repeatedly practicing mindful silence also trains you to respond, not react. Instead of blurting out an emotional retort, you take a second to breathe, weigh your words, and offer a measured reply. These shifts can also enhance your personal leadership. Whether you lead a household, a team, or just yourself, measured speech demonstrates self-control and credibility. Others see your words carry weight because you only speak when necessary. The Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason." Buddha would likely agree that the proportion underscores the power of quiet receptivity. Moving forward with monastic wisdom. As you integrate silence into your daily routine, remember that it's not about ceasing speech entirely, but refining your relationship with it. If you slip back into rambling or impulsive chatting, treat it as an opportunity to practice compassion toward yourself. Buddha recognized that mastery over habits takes time and patience. Awareness is the first step. Catching yourself mid-ramble can become a mini-victory if you calmly pivot to mindful quiet. You might also explore supportive tools. Some people join meditation groups or sanghas that encourage regular silent retreats or designated hush periods. Others experiment with journaling, which channels the urge to express into a private, reflective space. That practice can fulfill emotional needs for sharing without adding to the external noise. Over weeks or months, your comfort with silence expands. You may discover whole new dimensions of creativity, introspection, and empathy once freed from the compulsion to verbalize every thought. Ultimately, you transform from someone who fears silence as awkward or lonely into someone who finds nourishment in quiet intervals. Like monks who discovered that silence sharpens wisdom and fosters genuine bonding, you too can experience how stepping back from constant chatter opens the path to personal strength and mental clarity. Buddha's insight into silence shows that talking less can do more than reduce noise. It can amplify your self-awareness, deepen your connections, and anchor your emotional balance. By cutting back on unnecessary speech, you save mental energy, master impulsive reactions, and listen more fully to others. Is there a small step you can take today? Perhaps a mindful pause before speaking or a mini silent retreat at home? Share your reflections in the comments. And if this perspective on quiet resonates, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel Monk Mindset for more guidance on living with depth, calm, and authentic presence.